On today's episode of the Unwritten Rule, we're going to be doing a little preview of Mizzou, Kansas State, talk about the Tigers' chances, if they even really have any. Lots to dive into. We're going to talk just kind of the updates from this week on the Mizzou side, talk a little Kansas State, give a preview of what's to come. Obviously, a big jumping opponent from Missouri's first two games. So we'll do that. We then have Quick Hits, new segment to debut in Quick Hits, little NFL-themed one. And then staying on the NFL track, we brought the fraud rankings back. So for those who listened to this show a while ago back on our KCOU days, Kenny used to do his fraud rankings. Fraud! We brought him back. So definitely stay tuned for that. That's a fun segment. We're excited to get that going with football back. Not that excited to talk about Mizzou, but we're going to have to do it anyway. But anyway, regardless, great show for you guys to start your weekend as you dive into the Mizzou game. 11 a.m. kickoffs are back, and we're back, and the Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to the Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, September 15th, and Mizzou football is looking to go 3-0. I couldn't really even get that out super seriously because it's going to be a tough matchup on Saturday. We're going to preview Mizzou, Kansas State on this program on this fair Friday. 11 a.m. kicks are back, first of all. That's always delightful. Not really, but yeah, Mizzou, Kansas State on Saturday, 11 a.m. It is in Columbia. Obviously, the Tigers lost in the pouring rain. Poor Kenny, who was covering the team, had to go wait. There was a delay, right? Didn't it get delayed for a while?
There was a lightning delay is what the issue was. Yeah. But, I mean, I just sat in a press box the whole time.
Oh, yeah,
you were cold. I will admit it was freezing in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They don't have heaters at Kansas State.
So we're back, 11 a.m. The Tigers obviously got kind of blown out by Kansas State last year. And I think the three of us, safe to say, are kind of expecting that again, given the performance, especially in week 2 against Middle Tennessee State. But I'll throw it to you guys first. Mizzou, what's happened this week? What are we looking for? I think they know the opponent that they're getting on Friday. Drinkwitz hasn't been shy to say this team is really freaking good. They're ranked for a reason. They were great last year. What has Mizzou done this week? What are you guys looking for them to, have a fighting chance on Saturday?
They're going to, this week, I think everybody in the building kind of knows how important this one is. Brady Cook really kind of took the reins and talked about how much this team wanted this one on Saturday night. But needless to say, I mean, if we're basing it just off of the performances of two teams right now, they're a ways off, and Mizzou is going to have to play their all-around best game on Saturday to maybe win. It may not even be enough. This K-State team is really good still. Mizzou is going to have to be a lot more explosive on offense. Have to negate the penalties. Special teams, everything has to be cleaned up. You can't have bad kick returns. Can't have missed extra points, missed kicks, bad holds, and all that. And the defense, I think, does need to maybe find another gear. Maybe they've played well the first 2 weeks, but they haven't forced a turnover. And I think it's going to take a couple turnovers maybe for Mizzou to win this game.
I've been thinking about it a lot. You said that well, Peyton. You're trying to see a little bit more explosive plays. We talked about chaos, explosion, things that just set the tone, or especially early in the game. We talked about that last week. With the last 2 losses, of course, wins are wins. You're trying to extend your season. You're trying to get to postseason play. Even if that's not an SEC championship, you want to get to a bowl game. You want exposure. You want this team to get better each year. You look at last year, Louisiana Tech. It was a decent win. It was a fine win, 52-24. You come into week 2, and that's when Kansas State kind of rolls you. You had a kind of a win against Abilene Christian that you expected a little bit more, and then it was just a heartbreaking loss against Auburn. I mean, that's just uncharacteristic plays, from special teams, and then Nate Peat extending the ball. And so it was kind of some rough, first 4 weeks. Good response against Georgia. I mean, that's where I'm kind of looking right now. I know it's only week 3, and that was week 5 last year. I think Mizzou, we can look at, how they played the last 2 weeks. I think maybe we might be, pretty harsh on them. And, I mean, there are points to blame. There are reasons to be, thinking that way. But, more I think about it, maybe there is, more fight in this team, especially after losing last season. These guys on this team, they didn't grow up. A lot of them didn't grow up a part of this regional rivalry. I mean, Brady Cook might be one of the only ones, but really the teams he watched, especially in the SEC. But this is, a game that matters to a lot of, just Missouri in general. I think maybe Mizzou comes out of this. There's a lot on the table. Maybe they don't sneak out with a win, but maybe they keep it close. I think there are definitely weapons here on the offense and defense that could, point in that direction.
It's a thing we all do in football, especially when you only play one game a week. Everyone's kind of wired to overanalyze the last game because that's all you really have to go on. And Mizzou's last game was not good, obviously, and so I think it's a fair point, Kenny. Maybe we're being a little bit too harsh on the chances that this Missouri team has. That's not to try and understate what Kansas State can do. But yeah, I think that's a good point. I want to look at the offensive line. Either one of you can take this because there are some shifts. At least Drinkwitz said they were going to look this week in practice at switching some things up because it was not great from anybody. We talked about that after Middle Tennessee. It wasn't good by anybody on the offensive line. What if any changes could we maybe expect or that you would hope to see, in addition to obviously the thing we're all going to keep screaming for, which is the penalties, lack of penalties or less of them. But what else can we see?
Drinkwitz said this was probably the most important tidbit they got out of Drinkwitz this week. It was that Drinkwitz was looking at the right guard, creating competition, as he put it, at right guard. He said Cameron Johnson would be there. He said Marcellus Johnson would get a look. He said EJ Doma-Ogar, who we've talked about this show a lot on this show a lot. And interesting, this was the real interesting one. He said Logan Reichert, the freshman, the huge freshman from the Kansas City area, would also get a look at the right guard position. That's the only one I would expect really any sort of change in starter at, if there is one. I would still lean EJ Ndoma-Ogar as being the guy that goes there. But regardless, everybody needs to have a better week on the O-line. Javon Foster didn't have his best game last week, but I would expect that to change. He's just a rock solid tackle. I still expect Armand Membu to be kind of a good, solid piece at right tackle. Connor Tollison, Delgado, I think they'll be fine. It was a bad week last week. I still ultimately think this O-line will turn out better than it was last year. It's just a matter of actually putting it together.
Yeah, you said it well there, and it's interesting to see where that competition comes. So EJ Ndoma-Ogar really opened that competition last year. First 2 games of the season, he was on the depth chart, fell off after kind of some rough play against Abilene Christian late into the game, then fought his way back on. I mean, EJ Ndoma-Ogar, we've seen it. He's proven it that he can fight for these positions. He can get options there. I wanted to throw one little small note about the defensive side of the ball. Just one quick update. This comes from Callum McAndrew. Chad Bailey, who was in uniform last week, still not back on the depth chart, but he does have a quote from Drinkwitz here. If he's ready, we'll see if he can give us a couple of series, and also mention that they'll never put him in jeopardy, but the Mike linebacker is ahead of schedule to return. Of course, we know he had the soft tissues procedure, but he looks like he's coming back soon. And this is like one of those things you've seen before from Drinkwitz and company, is that these captains, Barrett Bannister last season going into the Arkansas game, did have that knee injury, but he was suited up. He was, going through the motions, but never played. And, it's maybe like a game time decision, but also having one of your captains in uniform is always a good thing too. I mean, he's right there. Even if he's not on the field, he can be almost like a secondary coach especially for some of those younger linebackers that be filling in for Chad Bailey.
I want to stick on the defense for a second because I think there's another thing a theme we've caught on to is, through the first 2 games, this is a defense that's gotten a lot of hype from a lot of people outside of Mizzou circles, like national people, in terms of how strong it can be. Under Blake Baker. This is a defense that doesn't have a turnover yet against South Dakota and Middle Tennessee. Is that another thing you two are looking to for them to kind of capitalize on? I know it's a much better opponent, but forcing a turnover, I think, would seem to appease a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, last year it wasn't like they were some dominant turnover machine defense. They forced 18, which if I remember correctly, seeing the stat, it was around 70th, very middle of the pack at it. But you do against a team like Kansas State, you're going to need probably to create a couple of turnovers. And turnovers, there is always a bit of randomness to it. I think that is just what it comes down to a lot of the time, whether a fumble bounces your way, whether you're in the right position on a bad throw. That is not a lot that Mizzou can control on defense. But at the same time, there are things you can do to increase your chances there. And I think they have to come away with a couple this weekend. And
Sounds like we need yeah.
I was just gonna say, and not creating any through 2 weeks, that's pretty unlucky. I would expect something this weekend.
We need a Will Howard, Josh Allen from Monday Night moment where he just runs into his own guy and can't catch a snap, is what it sounds like.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's almost just an appeasing thing for fans because, like you said, it is a little random. It can be a little, a little weird in terms of how often you cause it. But yeah, it's a little worrisome that in those performances which we were not pleased with, the defense wasn't creating some sort of takeaway. Kenny, you have anything on the defense? What you want from them?
No, I think Peyton said it well earlier as well. Just looking for that first turnover of the season, and we talk so highly about Blake Baker. Still haven't heard from the coordinators yet this year.
Yeah.
We did hear some shouts about play calling from Kirby and how a lot of the offensive staff is giving input, which we heard the same thing last year. One last thing that I want to mention about the Mizzou side is another quote from Drinkwitz saying we have to get Nate Peat more involved. You look at where Nate Peat has been this season. Last game, nearly 75% or more of the times he was on the field, he got the ball. I mean, we're not seeing him really used in a lot of different scenarios. He had 8 attempts last game against Middle Tennessee for 51 yards. He has 103 yards on the season on 22 attempts. That's pretty good. I mean, 1 touchdown, his longest run is for 15 yards. You compare that to last year, he has nearly a fourth of the rushing yards he had last year. We're seeing a different Nate Peat, more confident. He looks like he's having fun out there as well. That receiving touchdown, that's a great thing to see from him as well. And he looks like a refreshed player, almost a different player.
Yeah, Mizzou's been so reliant on, you went from Larry Roundtree to Tyler Beatty having that, elite-ish running back to rely on all the time. And now you have kind of more of a tandem, but it's 2 guys that can get the job done. So it is nice to see Nate Peat back. I think that's a good take. Let's turn now to Kansas State. The opponents, of course, on Saturday. This is a good team. Fellas. 2 games so far. They beat SEMO, of course, sometimes an opponent of Missouri, at least in our time. They played SEMO a couple times. 45-0, beat Troy 42-13. So also haven't really faced anybody, too significant just yet, but I think have shown why they deserve to be ranked 15th and they are in the country. This is a good team. They went to the Big 12 championship. They beat TCU in that game. Of course, it went to the college football playoff. What are you guys looking at in Kansas State? Who are the threats, I guess I should say, to Mizzou's chances on Saturday?
Yeah, we've talked about him already a bit. One guy I would keep an eye on is definitely Will Howard, Kansas State's quarterback. Last year, he was not the quarterback for Kansas State when Missouri played them. It was Adrian Martinez, and Adrian Martinez gave the Mizzou defense fits a lot of the game. They really struggled to contain his legs. Will Howard, a bit of a different type of quarterback. He doesn't run around like Adrian Martinez does, but he does have that in his back pocket if he needs. Will Howard, he has 3 rushing touchdowns already, and yes, you can maybe look at the opponents and say, well, it's not that impressive. But, I mean, you pair that with 5 touchdowns through the air already. And Troy was no slouch on defense last year. They were one of the best defenses in the country. Yes, it was a weaker conference, but it is something to keep in mind. Will Howard was the quarterback that led Kansas State to that Big 12 title win. He took over late in the year for Adrian Martinez after Martinez was hurt and just ran with the job. He started for them in the Sugar Bowl. I would definitely keep an eye on him. He has 547 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. So there is a little bit of a turnover-prone element to him. He's thrown a pick in each of the first 2 games. He's definitely going to be. He might be the X factor on this K-State offense. If Missouri can keep him bottled up, they're going to have a much better chance.
Funny you mentioned those interceptions. I remember last year I got an email while on the beat from like a Mizzou fan. I mean, someone that was really following that team closely, and they were talking to Adrian Martinez, and Adrian Martinez up to that point was averaging a turnover per game, and I don't think he threw an interception in that game against Mizzou. He just went 9 for 20 for 101 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and I just thought that was funny. Just kind of remembering that as well. But when you look back at that last game last year, another guy that just really came to mind, who's now in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs, is Felix Ozuma, who was just a threat on the edge.
Missouri native.
Missouri native, had an opportunity to go to Mizzou as a journalist student, not even to play football. What a story for him. First round pick by the Kansas City Chiefs. Another guy, Eli Huggins, who ran out of college eligibility. He was at the defensive tackle position. How are you going to replace that? Khalid Duke, who's been mentioned from the Mizzou staff, who's been mentioned by everyone at Kansas State as well. And here's a quote that I want you guys to hear. This is from K-State football coach Chris Kleeman. This is from an article at Kansas.com. He's a terror. He's a good player. We're keeping him fresh too. Duke is just so difficult to try and block. I mean, after you lose one of the best edge rushers in the country to the NFL, another guy comes in named Khalid Duke. I mean, that's something to keep an eye on. How are these tackles? How are these guards going to stop him? That's one thing to monitor. Who's going to be coming off that edge? Khalid Duke is the name to look out for.
5 tackles, 3 sacks already this season. He leads the Big 12 right now. So good name for sure. The only other thing I'll turn to, another guy in the NFL now, of course, believe with the Cowboys, right? Deuce Vaughn, the running back out of Kansas State, was obviously a terror to a lot of teams last season. He's gone, so a hole to fill for Kansas State at running back. The guy they are turning to, it looks like this year, is DJ Giddens. Already has 180 rushing yards this season. Had around 500 last year, which for also a team that had Adrian Martinez who liked to run it, it's a decent haul. So he's obviously he's stepping into a bigger role, but maybe not as strong of a run game this season from Kansas State when they play Mizzou, because they don't have Deuce Vaughn anymore. But obviously Giddens seems like he's making that step up. But that's one thing I'll shout out in terms of talent they lost.
Yeah, Giddens has 180 yards through 2 games. It's kind of been a little bit of a dual threat out of that backfield. They also have Trayshawn Ward, who has the same amount of carries but has 114 yards and just 1 touchdown. Just 1 touchdown between both of those running backs. So Will Howard actually has triple their rushing touchdowns. But, I mean, I wouldn't expect that trend to continue against Missouri. But, yeah, I mean, Deuce Vaughn, Mizzou was able to keep him relatively bottled up for about a half. But, I mean, in that second half, when things just really went sideways, you had those back-to-back interceptions from Cook and Abraham. They just got ran over. And, I mean, Kansas State in general just has a lot of playmakers this year. You also have to consider R.J. Garcia and Phillip Brooks out wide. They have 4 different receivers with over 100 yards receiving already. So they spread the ball around. It is a dangerous offense. So you're not going to really see anything come from just one direction. You have to be ready for everything.
It's a Josh Manning Bowl. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah. Good
Kansas
point.
State fans were very normal after that commitment.
I'm looking at the weather report too, Kenny. 79 degrees and sunny. So I don't think we have any lightning delays to worry about this time around.
Lucky fans in Columbia this weekend.
Yeah. They're getting a nice 11 a.m. kickoff. They'll obviously be up early. Any last things on Kansas State? I'll do the kicker shout out just because kicker expert. Chris Tannant, 11 for 11 on field goals. He has 1 from 50 plus. I think the rest of them are all extra points. Oh, never mind. He has 11 extra points. 1 made field goal from 50 plus.
I was going to say,
he's only been kicking extra points. Sorry,
Yeah.
I read that wrong. But so there's your kicker report. But yeah, any final Kansas State things to look for? Anything from Mizzou? Maybe you know what? Quick score prediction. We'll end with that. What do we think the damage is going to be on Saturday?
This is definitely, you hate to say it's Missouri's Super Bowl, but this is probably about as important as a game is going to be for Mizzou this year. I mean, Drinkwitz needs this one. He needs it. It's the first sellout at Faroe in 4 years, since 2019, homecoming against Ole Miss. They need this one bad. I think they'll play like they need it bad. Kansas State is just too good, and this team has not shown me that they are capable of really hanging with them. So I'm going to go Kansas State 34, Mizzou 20.
That's good. I've been going back and forth all week. I saw a tweet where it was like 35-24, which seemed like a lot of points. I mean, last year we saw these tweets as well about the score being pretty high, and they were right about Kansas State. They just weren't right about Mizzou. I've been on the side that I think Mizzou's going to put up a big fight. I think after those first 2 games of the season, you have to come out and just, show that you are an SEC caliber team, and you're going to, be able to compete with some of these big dogs. I'm going to say 28-24 Kansas State.
I was thinking kind of along the same lines. I feel like it's almost going to be a little bit more defensive because I do think Mizzou's defense is going to show up. I think they will create a turnover just with how much Kansas State, from what you guys were saying, likes to throw the ball. And Will Howard's solid, but, a little bit turnover prone, it would seem, at least early on. I'm going to go 27, one less than Kenny, to 17. 10-point win for the Wildcats in Columbia. Obviously, that's not the outcome Mizzou fans will be looking or be happy about, but I think it's an outcome that a lot of them are going to be expecting going into Saturday. We will see. We're going to jump on. Peyton and I will jump on right after the game to break it all down, recap. It'll be nice. We won't have to do it at the very late hours of the evening because they play early on in the day. So we'll maybe have some college football on in the background while we do that. But we are going to recap. And we'll see. I'm very intrigued. Like Peyton said, this is a big one for Drinkwitz. He needs this. It's a big litmus test for where this team is really at, I think. It's going to be exciting. Nice college football game in Columbia, 11 a.m. All right. With that, we will turn things over to quick hits, and we'll see how Mizzou does on Saturday. Okay, quick hits time. Kenny, you have your physical jersey. You made me restart this segment to go get it. What's your jersey of the week?
My jersey of the week goes to Baker Mayfield. The one I'm holding right now, you might see on YouTube, is the Cleveland Browns Baker Mayfield jersey. He hasn't worn this in 2 years now, but we're going to give it to him for this week after a comment he made during a press conference on Wednesday for the Buccaneers. He said, "I know I'm in Tampa, but I'm a Texas Rangers fan, not a Houston Astros fan. So we're not going to condone that." When asked about if he was picking up signs against the Vikings on Sunday, nice little jab against the number 1 team in the American League West. His Rangers were in charge
Rangers
for a little bit. My Rangers as well. I've been a Rangers fan my whole life. They're no longer in first place. I think they peaked a little bit early. A little bit of an immature run by them, but still a good fight, good dog fight in the AL West. I'm glad Baker Mayfield's having fun because he hasn't had fun in the NFL yet.
Did that hurt you a little bit, Kenny? I know you're a big Baker guy.
Yeah, I love Baker Mayfield. I saw that and it was like a little bit like angry, like what are you trying to do here, man? Like you should just put your head down and do your job, kind of thing. I remember I went to a Texans game and wore my Baker Mayfield jersey. I've rooted for the Texans my whole life, but that
You were
game
that guy?
I
You
wore
were
my
the
Baker
you were the
Mayfield.
Hey Chad guy?
I loved Baker Mayfield.
Were they playing the
'Cause,
Browns?
they were playing the Browns.
Oh, okay.
And it was
That's
one of his
fine.
first games, or he was starting, and the Texans dismantled them. Pretty funny because Deshaun Watson was the quarterback.
Now the Browns
It's even funnier that Deshaun Watson took Baker Mayfield's job. Deshaun Watson was an Astros fan at some point when he was in Houston. But I remember wearing it, and the lady next to me was like, "Oh, he's going to be good." Like we were watching him the second half. If I'm not mistaken, he had 250 yards in the second half. So it was a good day for Baker Mayfield, just not a good day for the Browns.
Mizzou fans will like Baker Mayfield for the thing that happened against Kansas when he was at OU. The most well received, but Mizzou fans.
He was disciplined more than the 2017 Houston Astros.
There you go. Should have stayed an Astros fan. All right, Peyton. hope that Peyton, this one's gonna get angry.
My jersey of the week is Chase Claypool. It's the trade that keeps on giving for the Bears. It's being speculated that he may just straight up be inactive this weekend. He had a very poor showing in the blocking game this past Sunday. They asked the Bears head coach Matt Eberflus about it, and he said they talked about it, and he didn't make a guarantee that he would be active on Sunday. So yeah, they only traded the 32nd overall pick for Chase Claypool. Um, and yeah, his career has kind of fallen a bit to the wayside. He's been a total mess since he's been on the Bears. This is a contract year, and he had no catches, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so yeah, good start to the year for Mr. Chase Claypool.
I saw a clip, Peyton, like this, not Claypool, but related to the Bears, that one of their starters on defense didn't register a stat in the first game of the year.
I
don't
didn't
remember.
see that, but
I don't remember who it was exactly. It might have been a DT. I don't remember. But one of their starters did not get a stat. So like not even like a pressure quarterback hit, like nothing, not even a tackle.
It was a bad game, that's for sure. But I am not really a Bears fan, so.
Do you think Chase Claypool, if he had the chance, like the Bears said, hey, you can skip week 1 to go to New York Fashion Week, do you think he would do it?
I would hope
TikTok
he'd say
week.
no.
Those were his
He's a
highlights
big
from this
fashion guy.
offseason.
He
Was
did
him just
have a
doing the
big
fashion.
fashion thing in Paris. But I think he'd have played football that week.
How many TikToks has he made since he's gone to the Bears? Have you kept track?
I don't keep track of that. No.
Doesn't follow. Yeah, that's unfortunate, Peyton. But they'll bounce back. My jersey of the week, I'm staying in the NFL. I'm staying in the NFL. I'm going Xavier Gipson, of course, the wide receiver for the Jets. He returned the punt on Sunday night or on Monday Night Football, a game that I don't think anybody, NFL fan, Jets fan, Bills fan, will forget in a hurry. Returned the punt for a touchdown. My first thought on this, I got very annoyed when the NARC rules analyst came on to be like, it has an asterisk because a guy should have been called for tripping. Stop it. Leave this alone. It was a game-winning walk-off punt return touchdown. Reminded me of Deshaun Jackson for the Giants when he did that, or for the Eagles against the Giants when he did that a while back. But yeah, game-winning punt return. I know there was the whole thing. He was on Hard Knocks and he like learned that he was going to be on the team, and they kind of tricked him. They made it seem like they were going to cut him, and then welcomed him on the team. So he had a long journey. And of course, it gives the Jets a small win because Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. What was it like? I think it was 75 seconds, they said, into his career or into his Jets career. Tore his Achilles, done for the year. The funny part I saw, and I know I said this on a quick hit a while back, was the promo that the bar in Milwaukee was doing, where every time Aaron Rodgers lost, they would pay for the tab. Those games were only going to apply if Aaron Rodgers starts. So that promo is basically dead now. They like, can't do it anymore because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So no one wins, truthfully. Not him, not the Jets, but they got a small win with Gipson on the punt return.
Speaking of Xavier Gipson, where he went to school actually plays into the next segment for Guess That College. Are you guys good to move on? We done with the jerseys of the week?
Yeah, poor Jets fans. That's all I have to say.
The secondary jersey, Larry Roundtree, former Mizzou running back, was released by the Texans this week. I can actually I'm gonna go wrap my Larry Roundtree jersey.
Kenny caused this, Peyton. We were texting about some other segment we were gonna do, and he was like, "Oh, we might make the Texans game." Yeah, there it is. Look, go to the YouTube, see Kenny's Larry Roundtree jersey. But we were talking about picking games for our segment that we're gonna get to later. And we were like, oh, we'll pick games with Mizzou players. Like we might pick the Texans if like Larry Roundtree's still there. And like an hour later, we got the tweet that Larry Roundtree got cut by the Texans.
Yeah,
so
it's sad. His Texans career lasted about 3 weeks.
Tough. That's tough.
All right,
Kenny.
Guess That College. This is Guess That College for episode 30. You guys know the rules. Keep your hands up. This one might be a little bit easy. So feel free to just go when you want.
I don't know where Xavier Gipson went to college. I did not check.
So we're going to start it off with a former NBA player, kind of dipped his feet in the NBA. He's played all around just Europe and in the G League as well as Michael Benajay.
Nope.
When
I
did
thought
he
you
play? Can I get that? When did he play in the NBA?
I'm not going to give you that.
Is that
I'm not
cheating?
gonna-
Okay.
no.
All right. No, that's fair. That's fair.
If there was like a question about pronunciation or which, because there might be
Pronunciation.
players with
Can you use his
two-
college in a sentence?
the same name that played for 2 different schools. Yeah, Michael Benajay scored a bucket.
I said college.
Oh, I thought you said in a sentence. Second name, running back, Hall of Fame running back, Floyd Little.
no idea.
Hall of Fame for who?
The NFL.
Right, you are.
Do you want like the team he played for in the NFL?
Yeah, I do. I don't know who this is.
Denver Broncos.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Do you
next
know who
one.
this is, Peyton?
No.
Okay.
I know. I know
not,
who these
it's not
two
just me.
people are. So, third one, Dwight
Well,
Freeney.
of course you do. You did this quiz.
Oh, I do know him.
I do know
And
who
I
that
have
is.
like a
Colts-
general idea
Colts
now,
legend.
but like not for certain.
The jersey I picked was from the Super Bowl, against the Bears. Peyton.
Oh yeah, Banners fly forever.
Nice.
It's a sick jersey. Those Reebok ones were something else.
They're great.
Especially those Navy ones. Okay, that's 3. Here's the last one. I think this will give it away. This is number 4. Usually number 3 gives it away for Peyton, but we're going to do it here. Donovan McNabb.
Oh, dang.
I
Dang.
don't know. I don't know.
No idea, Jack? Jack, do you want to take a guess?
Is it a pretty big school? I feel like
Power
Donovan
5.
McNabb
Yeah.
didn't go to a.
Yeah, it is.
It
Power
is
5.
pretty big.
Yeah.
Power 5. Oh no, that was Vic. I was gonna say Virginia Tech, but that was Vic. I will guess the University of. I'm trying to think of it. Washington State. That's not right.
No,
No.
didn't we have Washington State?
We had
Oh, we
Washington
did have
like
Washington
a
State.
week
Yeah.
or so ago.
Peyton.
Syracuse.
It is Syracuse.
Oh, there you
I was
go.
hoping Donovan McNabb would give it away there. He was actually an answer on a trivia game I was playing 2 days ago. Kind of got the idea, but also got the idea from Mike Williams, who passed away this past week, and he was a Syracuse wide receiver back in the 2000s. And I was like, I know there's another Mike Williams in the NFL now, and it's very sad to see that Mike Williams is passing. I didn't realize he only played like 4 or 5 seasons in the NFL.
Yeah, it wasn't.
When I
super
think
long.
about like growing up, I remember like I could see Mike Williams in that Buccaneers jersey, number
I remember.
19.
Yeah, I remember.
And it's just, I don't know. It's weird to think that he only played 3 seasons with the Buccaneers and then 1 with the Bills.
He
It's
signed
funny
a
those.
6-year deal with them too, and then he got traded after the first year of it.
Wow. It's interesting those names that kind of stick in your brain, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy, and they weren't in the league for all that long, but for some reason they just stick out. But yeah, definitely that was definitely sad to see. But good one, Kenny. That's a personal school for you. What would you have picked? What would you have picked? Like, what did you have any other names like floating around?
Yeah, I had
as
a lot,
Syracuse?
but I've said a lot to you guys. I would have gone Raheem Christmas,
Tyler
Fab
Ennis.
Mello, Tyler Ennis, the Iceman. He's from Canada.
If you would have had a couple more basketball players,
I would have had.
I was trying to
would've-
avoid basketball because basketball would have been too easy.
Raheem Christmas would have given it away.
Chris
Tyler
Joseph,
Ennis
Michael
and
Carter
Fab Mello.
Williams.
Oh, rookie of the year, Bucs legend.
He was a rookie of the year. Who was that 6th man for the Thunder for a little while?
James Harden.
Raymond Felton.
I'm gonna look it up. It's like
Thabo
2012 Thunder.
Nick Collison?
No.
No.
Didn't he have his jersey retired by them?
He did because he played
That
for
is
so long.
ridiculous.
Very, very strange. Almost as ridiculous as the Phillies congratulating a division rival and winning the division.
We'll
That
get
was
into
Later in the show. 2014 Thunder, maybe.
I have
I don't know
no
why I'm
idea.
blanking on his name. Oh, Deion
Depot?
Waiters.
Oh,
Winters went to Syracuse?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah,
did.
he
I
did.
did know that.
Yeah, he
He
did.
didn't really play
Yeah.
much at Syracuse. You don't remember it, but
Oh,
Brandon
great,
Trish.
great role player.
Yeah,
Cavs
there's
legend.
a lot of guys I could have gone with basketball wise.
Yeah. All right, good segment. Do you want to intro this this next one?
No, you got it.
Did I get the new one?
Yeah.
Okay, we tweeted this because, of course, week 1 in the NFL was last week. So we started this segment before actually introducing it on the show. But this is the first week we'll get to do it in the show. We're replacing best beats of the week, or weekend rather, for the NFL season. We're gonna get our NFL talking with mostly this segment. We're picking 4 games. We're deciding between the 3 of us 4 games in the NFL to pick. We're just doing the spread, and we're just gonna pick. So this week we have like Bengals Ravens. You're picking the Bengals -3. You're picking the Ravens. Simply put, we're calling it Unwritten Rules Fantastic Four picks because, of course, the new Fantastic Four movie was great. I don't think anyone had any issues with it. Just kidding. That was one of the worst films I've ever seen. Side note. But yeah, we're replacing best beats of the week with that to do NFL picks. So we did it last week. I think we all go 3-1?
No,
Kenny went 4-0. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the best of 4. It's kind of along the lines of the Bear, his picks for college football. That was where we got the inspiration. Of course, he's no more with ESPN. They don't have him anymore, do they? And Game Day?
He's at Fox. It's
Fox
Stanford
now?
Steve that took his spot.
I do like Stanford Steve. They're both good. But yes, so we'll have 4 picks this week, and obviously we'll see how we do. We're taking the lines on Thursday, so if the lines change from Thursday to Sunday, that's why they won't be changed on our graphic, just because that's when we're recording the show. Kenny, you go for it. What's our 4 games? Who have we all picked? I teased
4
one
games. Yeah, we decided this amongst ourselves. Ravens-Bengals. The Bengals are favored by 3 points. Chiefs-Jaguars. Chiefs are favored by 3.5. Bears-Buccaneers. The Bucs are now favored by 2.5. And 49ers-Rams. The 49ers are favored by 7 points.
There you go.
And we'll
if anyone has a game too, tweet at us if they're like, pick this game this week. That'll make our deciding a lot easier, because otherwise we just vote between 3 of us. Start us off. Ravens-Bengals.
Starting off in Cincinnati with the Ravens-Bengals. Pretty clean sweep here. Everyone can give their reasons why if they would like to. I think it's a good bounce back game for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. We all have Bengals -3.
Yeah, I don't think the Ravens are bad or anything. I just think there's no way the Bengals go 0-2 to start the year, especially after as bad a start as they had. I think they'll be just fine.
My only note is to one Bengal individually. That's T. Higgins, who I was on Instagram and I saw him post a hype video of himself. I would like him to stop doing that until he actually registers a catch this season. Got me 0 points in fantasy in week 1. So yeah, figure it out. And yeah, Joe Burrow, his worst game of his career last week. I wouldn't call it a get right game because the Ravens are good, but I think they'll bounce back.
And this could be said the same way about the Chiefs and the Jaguars. Heading down there to Florida. Patrick Mahomes, another guy you don't expect to start 0-2. We all have Chiefs -3.5 in this game. What are y'all's explanations?
Again, Jaguars are a good team. No way Mahomes is going 0-2, especially with Kelce back. Wouldn't shock me. Like, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if the Jaguars straight up won, but I have more than enough faith in Mahomes to get this done.
Yeah, Kelce is back. That's my only note. All right, Chiefs.
Staying in Florida here, Peyton's Bears taking on the Buccaneers. Jack and Peyton, Bucs -2.5. I have Bears +2.5. I think the Bears are going to get a bounce back win here after a pretty tough showing against the Packers at home. Baker Mayfield, I think he's going to eat his words after what he said this past week about the Houston Astros, and he's going to take the loss.
I'll go quick to let Peyton get a word in here. The Bears stink. Like, I don't know. Jordan Love was fine in the game 1 for the Packers, but the Bears were terrible. So give me the Buccaneers. Go ahead, Peyton.
I don't have.
Why didn't you
too
pick
much to
Bears?
say about it? Because they're bad. No, the Buccaneers, I absolutely think will kind of drive the stake in the heart of the Bears season. It's already really spiraling. I mean, some of the quotes this week, just from the press conferences and stuff, have been really just kind of alarming. It feels like stuff you see in the midst of a 6-game skid, not after week 1. And yes, the Bears have not won a game in almost a calendar year at this point, but it is still like it's week 1 and things are unraveling very quickly. And I don't think this is a team that is going to respond well. I really don't. I have a lot of doubts about the roster, the coaching, and the way the team has been put together. Uh, it's just going to get ugly. I think Baker manages the game well, and that's all he'll have to do.
Think they'll get the number 1 pick?
I think they'll get 2 top 5 picks in the draft.
All right, switching coasts here. We're going to go 49ers, Rams out there in LA. Jack has 49ers at -7. Peyton and I have Rams +7. Quick note here. The Rams did defeat Jack's Seahawks last week, 30-13. Matthew Stafford, who caught Clayton Kershaw in high school, went 24 for 38 for 334 yards. I think it's time to retire for Cam Akers. 22 carries for 29 yards. Pretty underrated. Other than that, for the Rams, some of these offensive weapons they have, Kyron Williams, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua with 119 yards. Both those wide receivers looked good there from the Rams, and it was a good win over the Seahawks. I think they keep it rolling, and 7 is a lot of points. 49ers are probably one of the top 3 team in the league, but I think the Rams keep it close in week 2.
Yeah. That was a frustrating loss. I think that was one of the worst second half performances I've probably ever seen, regardless of it being my team or not, for the Seahawks last week. Letting Tutu Atwell get that many yards is ridiculous. But I honestly just picked the 49ers -7 just to be a little different. They absolutely whomped the Steelers in the first week of the season. Obviously, I think the Rams are a better team than the Steelers, but I don't know. I don't really have a reason other than just to be different. I won't be shocked if I do not hit this bet, but the Niners, I mean, they're stacked, and they seem like they found their guy in Brock Purdy, which is just ridiculous that they can turn Mr. Irrelevant into a quarterback of a Super Bowl caliber team. They almost went last year. So, why not? And yeah, it would be nice if 49ers could beat the Rams, who I'm not in love with after what they did to my team last week.
I definitely think the 49ers are the better team here. I think they'll win. But I don't know. Sean McVay, I can't really bet against being totally embarrassed. 7 points it's a long line. I mean, I don't know. I could go either way on this one. I liked what I saw from Stafford and the Rams in general. It's still a very flawed roster, but very encouraging sign for them.
I will say, did you guys see the locker room after they beat the Seahawks? And Stafford and McVay, they were they have high expectations for sure. It feels kind of like the McVay that helped lead his team to a Super Bowl. I'm not saying the Rams are like that, but they're coming out with a vengeance. I think they're playing kind of the kind of Kirby Smart thing where it's everyone's kind of, I mean, obviously, Kirby Smart was just kind of spin zoning to be everyone's doubting you, even though people weren't. But they're playing the underdog card of no one believes in us, no one has us favored, and that's a scary recipe. Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback, so we'll see. But
I think it's true too. I think people wrote them off after last year. Not a good season after winning the Super Bowl. Lost some picks. There was a lot of injuries. Some people thought Matthew Stafford's arm was, shot. He kind of proved some people wrong. Had a good game, and like Peyton said, it's hard to bet against Sean McVay, and to think that he was contemplating retirement. Same with Aaron Donald. These two guys were probably not going to be here if they thought maybe a little bit harder on their decisions or didn't think hard enough. So it's interesting to see that if the Rams can bounce back to what they were 2 years ago. All right, moving on. We will note though that these lines are fluctuating. When we first set them, I believe 49ers and Rams were set at 8 points on the spread, so it can go up and down. And it's interesting though to see 8 points separating two teams that had good week ones. All right, play that sound.
Oh yeah. Up next. Oh, first off, shout out Aaron Donald for making Geno Smith recognize that he's human with the scream. Did you guys see that clip? That was
my God.
Oh my God. All right, next.
I like no capping. He's the main bird.
All right, my main bird. Stay in the state of Missouri. It's going to go to St. Louis Cardinals legend Adam Wainwright, who picked up his 199th win this past week. One short of 200. Be a lot of hype going into his last couple starts. Of course, he's had a pretty rough season. We've talked about him enough. But this tweet comes from Cardinals Reek, a friend of Peyton and I's. And I don't know if I would consider him maybe a friend of Peyton, maybe an acquaintance. They are enemies on the field, maybe friends on the social platform. This post comes from X. Cardinals Reek posted in between Wainwright's two most recent wins, June 17th, and this was on September 12th. Ronald Acuna got 102 hits. Matt Olson hit 30 home runs. Matt Olson had 77 RBI. Ronald Acuna stole 35 bases. Mookie Betts secured 5.2 WAR. Blake Snell struck out 128 batters, and Blake Snell won 11 games. That's a lot of baseball in between those last two wins, and he's been fighting for those two to get to 200 for a while now. Hopefully, Waino can end his career with that 200th win.
I don't know if I'd say hopefully, but yeah, no, I mean, that's just kind of the Cardinal season in a nutshell. It's just been a total mess. They're going to have to flush it and just move on. But yeah, it's pretty bonkers what's happened with Wainwright in particular.
I would like to know how many hits Troy has had in between those games.
I'm going to do that right now. I actually want to know that. That's a good question.
I might set Kenny off on that mission. There's the Cardinals suck segment, by the way. Peyton, what's your main bird? Not what'd you learn? We're not.
My main bird of the week is going to be Kansas football. It's more of a dirty bird. But Kansas football, this was a tweet from yesterday at 10 in the morning. They tweeted primetime win. And it was a graphic that showed Kansas had 1.4 million viewers in their game against Illinois. And they also clarified that this was a top 5 most viewed football game on ESPN2 since 2019. Very specific criteria.
It's an ESPN stat.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Penn State Super Bowl winner on every team except for 6 different Super Bowls. So yeah, that was my main bird of the week.
I was one of those viewers. How do we feel about the black Kansas jerseys? We were having a debate with some of our other Mizzou acquaintances about these because I think they're cool, even though it's Kansas.
I went to an Adidas high school, and the football team broke out some black jerseys one time, and the black Adidas jerseys are just beautiful. I mean, they do it better than anyone else. So it's something about the material that looks really cool. And if you're a Kansas hater or Mizzou fan, you still got to respect these. These are pretty nice.
One of the broadcasters also said Kansas would win more than 10 games this season during that broadcast.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Wild
to play
takes.
Texas. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But the reason that they've had so many viewers since 2019 is because of COVID. People couldn't watch the games. I mean, we're finally a year or two removed since the pandemic ended. That's why these numbers are going back up. That's why people are watching football again. They couldn't during COVID.
Why couldn't they?
I don't know. I keep seeing posts like that. It's like this the most since 2019. That's when the world was normal, and now it's finally we have a normal year.
The Mizzou loves to do that with the tickets, like the highest attendance since post COVID. They love throwing that out there.
That's gonna be this weekend as well against Kansas State.
Yeah, against Kansas State. We'll talk about that. My main bird of the week goes to Travis Kelce. Of course, this is now I think been news for a couple days. He there was the whole thing after the Super Bowl, or he went to see like Taylor Swift in concert. Said publicly he was like trying to get her number, trying to link up, and now reportedly they've been quote quietly hanging out. And I just thought this tweet from Brett Coleman on Twitter was funny. Taylor's next breakup album is just going to be 18 songs, all about how Travis can't dig out a 6 technique as a why, and that's why he'll never be as good as Gronk. I saw another thing that was like, I think Taylor's next album is one of those re-releases, and we're just all going to pretend like all the songs are about Travis Kelce. Look for those subliminal messages. But yeah, there you go. So he finally seems to have been able to hang out with Taylor Swift, and yeah, it seems like a dangerous game. I think a Taylor Swift album about football would be very fun. But
what's the connection to a bird?
He played the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Oh, there you go.
I was waiting. I was ready.
I wanted to see if I could stump you on it, but
there wasn't much. His high school is not a bird, but I wanted to bring this up. Yeah, the Tigers. It says actually. I looked at this. His high school. They're like it says mascot the Tigers, nickname Tigers. Very specific.
I saw that as well. I wonder if it's Cleveland Heights. I wonder if that's where they got their podcast name from. I think it's New Heights is their podcast name.
Maybe
it almost certainly would have.
Yeah, it has to be from there.
Probably.
Going back to the Troy Johnson. You asked how many hits he had in between the two wins for Adam Wainwright. 88 in 66 games between
Call
June
him up.
18th and September 10th.
Come on, Marlins. Call him up.
Kimming, you're banned from this podcast until you
call him
up Troy Johnston.
I'll add him to the list. Should I make a graphic? Just like one of those big, just banned in giant letters, his photo. And then like little text until he calls up Troy Johnston.
Yeah.
I'll make a graphic.
Best thing you learned, Peyton?
Best thing I learned this week, the Phillies have way too much sportsmanship. So just last night, the Braves clinched the NL East with a victory on the Phillies in beautiful Citizens Bank Park. And the big Jumbotron in left field, which the more I look at it, the more I realize how comically large that thing is. They flash, congratulations, Atlanta Braves 2023 NL East champions. Especially in a sports city like Philly, I don't know how they thought this was a good idea. If one of my teams did this, I'd be furious for a division rival. I mean, this is sad stuff. You don't need to have that level of sportsmanship. You don't.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's embarrassing.
Also, they were 17 games out of first place, so maybe they weren't going to win it. But you look at some other teams that do it. I mentioned in a group chat with you guys that the Astros did it with the Rays and the Phillies last year. Both teams that aren't rivals. You face both from the
they're
playoffs
not in their division,
the
right?
Years. Yeah, they're not rivals. They're not in your division.
Yeah.
But you see it sometimes with teams that aren't familiar, don't really have that history with another team.
I still overall think that's kind of pointless, but still, it's way worse when it is a team that literally won your division and you're just admitting that you're bad. That's kind of soft. So,
okay,
Phillies better.
Best thing I learned this week, and this is your bi-weekly dose of some college basketball recruiting. This comes from Gabe DeArmond of Power Mizzou. Mizzou head coach Dennis Gates was in to see top 10 national prospect Jaden Quintance. I tweeted this on Wednesday. Quintance is a 5-star according to rivals, 13th in the nation, second at his position at center. He's 6'10", 235 pounds, class of 2024, and he's currently playing for World of God Christian Academy in Raleigh, North Carolina.
There you go.
Peyton, do you know?
I think that Anar
I
Boateng did it too.
Yeah, Anar Boateng also tweeted
His
his visit photos yesterday, and I don't even know if he tweeted them. I know they were on Instagram though. So just two pretty big pieces of recruiting there. Those are definitely Mizzou's two top targets. If they can land those two, I mean, that's probably going to be the best recruiting class Mizzou ever has in a sport. It's going to be quite ridiculous.
And we've said it before, seeing like so many recruits coming in just for one class and not just seeing two guys that aren't going to be like even role players that just sit on the bench. It's refreshing, and said that countless times.
No more Ed Chang and Jordan Wilmore classes.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We'll definitely have basketball recruiting as it keeps going, and then season's coming soon, right? I think we have like a month until. Yeah, we have like a month until like NBA is back already or something. So that's kind of wild. Basketball's back. Oh, shut up. My best thing I learned this week. This can also, if we want to count it, it could be the de facto community note of the week, since I know we didn't have one there for that. But this comes from PFF College on Twitter. They tweeted most pass attempts without an INT this season, and they said it was Shadur Sanders, of course, Colorado's quarterback, with 90. However, readers added context. Per both PFF and ESPN, San Jose State's, I believe it's Chevon Cordero.
Maybe?
Chevon?
I have no idea.
It's probably Cordero.
Cordero.
I don't know. Cordero has thrown the most pass attempts without an interception. San Jose State's football's official Twitter actually quote tweeted it themselves with a picture of his stats. With 91 is greater than 90, he has 91 pass attempts without an interception this season. So, come on, PFF. It's your stats website. We're not blaming this on Max, though. Not Max's fault.
Not Max's fault. He went to St. Louis High School in Honolulu, not in St. Louis.
That's like the guy who played for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I was doing the trivia thing that Kenny and I both like to do, and the guy Martin St. Louis who played for the Lightning.
Oh
His
yeah.
last name is St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Is
I had no idea who he was. But
it's
yeah, come on.
Chevin Cordero. I just listened to
Chevin
him say it.
Cordero. He has one more pass attempt without an interception than Shedeur Sanders. So
It's also impressive. He's played USC, which I guess it's not impressive not throwing a pick against their defense, but Oregon State has a very good defense, and he did not get picked off there.
there you go. Did you guys see the thing Colorado State's head coach said about the
Jay Norvell,
about their
yes.
game?
Mm-hmm.
Said,
That was all Colorado State needed, was to just make Colorado a little angrier, because that game
Yeah.
wasn't going to get out of hand quickly already.
Yeah, for those who didn't see, he said that like when I meet like adults, I take off my sunglasses or whatever, and added some fuel to the fire. It's a little shade at Dion. So they're gonna lose by 75 points. Oh yeah,
It's going to be quite bad.
I resent those comments, Colorado State's coach. Wear your glasses. All right. Do you have a joke, Peyton, or are we moving on to fraud rankings?
I do have a joke. My joke of the week is actually, you guys definitely know that one. There's no way you don't know that one. Oh, here's a good one. Little holiday themed one, because we're so close to Christmas. And all that jazz. If athletes get athlete's foot, what do elves get? Mistletoes.
That's pretty good. I got one too.
I'll give it that. I'll give him that. Go for it.
If a child refuses to nap, are they guilty of resisting arrest?
Oh. Those are
All right,
good
time for the
jokes.
fraud rankings.
All right, we're moving on. We're going to finish the show with fraud rankings. Fraud. It's our new segment. We're talking
It's
what?
not new. It's not new.
It's not new.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's not new. We're bringing it
Came
back.
out of
We're bringing it back.
retirement. It's the
That
Tom
intro,
Brady segment.
come out of retirement segment. It's the Tom Brady segment. It's the fraud rankings. For those who remember, we used to do this during quick hits. Kenny does his what? You have four frauds? Five frauds.
Ooh, five frauds.
So he's gonna give us our frauds from week one. We're gonna do this every week of NFL football, just because we like talking about football and we like the fraud rankings. Maybe we'll expand it to other sports. I'm thinking on the fly now, but we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. Kenny, I turn it over to you. I'm wearing the fraud detection glasses. Who are our frauds of the week one?
Yeah, we gotta start it off. We're gonna look at Thursday night football last week, right around this time. Lions and Chiefs. Chiefs.
Fraud.
Chiefs, fraud.
Number 5. Coming in at number 5. I mean, you could talk about it, maybe pushing him up a little bit. Down Kelce, there's an asterisk. Chris Jones wasn't playing either.
Mike Tirico said it himself.
Yeah, so there's an asterisk there, so we're going to put him at 5 with an asterisk. Number 4, we can go a different couple ways here. I'm going to even go down the list right now. I'm going to say the Vikings.
Ooh, fraud.
Close loss to the Buccaneers, but I got them at number 4 on the list. You guys chime in, too, if you think there's something fraudulent about these teams.
Valid. They won all their
Maybe
games
Kirk
by one
Cousins
score
turned
last
it
year.
over like 4
Couldn't do it.
times.
Yeah.
Come on,
Kirk
Kirk.
All right,
It's not
number
not
3 on the
over
list.
yet.
We can go a couple different ways here. I'm thinking Seahawks.
Yeah. Fraud.
Seahawks coming in.
Fraud.
Jack
Yeah.
talked about it. Pretty rough second half there for Seattle.
I-
Scored 0 points in the final 2 quarters after scoring 13 and being ahead of the Rams in the first half.
I'm gonna throw an asterisk.
Oh,
I'm gonna throw an asterisk
no.
in here. My own homer asterisk. Devin Witherspoon, 4th overall pick, didn't play in this game. They'll be back. But no, you're right. Fraud.
We could think about even like a team that won this week. I'm looking at the Eagles edged out a win against the Patriots. A win is a win. They covered. They covered, and
Fraud.
they beat the Patriots in Foxborough on Tom Brady Day. That's not fraudulent. They've beaten Tom Brady
not
in the
fraud.
Super Bowl
Hey,
before.
why are you
Yeah.
gonna-
So the Eagles
I
are
was gonna
not
go
frauds.
with
I'm
it.
saying that you could have thought that way.
I also
Or
have
they
the
go to
theory
New
that
York.
if you do those games real quick, Kenny, those games on like nights where you're retiring a player's jersey, honoring somebody in any sort of way, that team always loses. It's a fact. You never win those games. So I'm not shocked the Patriots lost. Anyway,
This was something I also thought of, putting a pause on the fraud rankings. The Patriots should sign Tom Brady to a deal and put him on the practice squad in case they ever need just somebody to play, like somebody to come in and win a clutch game. There it is. Who would you rather have on that last drive, Mac Jones or Tom Brady?
I mean, Tom Brady, but there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
Just elevate
Cam
him
Newton.
if you want him
Cam
that
Newton.
week.
Bring Cam
Cam
Newton
Newton.
back. Who's number 2?
Number 2, we're staying in the city of New York. The New York Giants. What's up with that? 40-0. Right out of the gate.
40
Cowboys
nothing.
scored 16 in the first quarter, 10 in the second. Then let off the pedal a little bit. 7 in the third and 7 in the fourth. 40 burger. Dallas
Their
Cowboys
defense
stomped the Giants. The Giants who won a playoff game last year. Brian Dable, Lord and Savior. What happened? Fraud.
The Cowboys
fraud.
defense was the third highest scoring player in fantasy this week.
What? Really? That's
Yeah, it was Brandon. At least on Sleeper, it was Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill, and the Cowboys.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And
Fraud.
of course, we all know who number 1 is. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
Fraud.
Frauds.
Fraud. Wyoming
You could
fraud.
say we're overreacting to week 1. A win is a win. A week is a week. A game is a game. Josh Allen throws 3 picks. Not a good game for the Bills. 22-16. The Jets win it, even with Aaron Rodgers going down with the season-ending injury. Zach Wilson, the truth, averaged 10 yards a throw, 10 yards of reception.
I got to say a quick thank you to Josh Allen. He needed to get less than 23 points for me to win one of my fantasy games in week 1. He got about 16 because he threw 3 picks and had a fumble. Thank you, Josh Allen. Fraud.
Shout out Jordan Whitehead, who had all 3 interceptions and earned a $250,000 bonus. It was in his contract. All he needed was 3 over the season, and he got 3 in one game.
I think that's like the first time an incentive like that's been hit in just 1 week or something like ever. There was some stat I saw about that. Yeah, wild. All right, good fraud rankings, Kenny. That's week 1. We'll do that every week. We'll recap. And yeah, give us your frauds. Team to watch. Seahawks better get off there. All right, that's going to end the Unwritten Rule programming for Friday. So keep an eye. We're going to have a reaction. Peyton and I are going to jump on Saturday right after the K-State game, talk about that. So we'll have that up on YouTube and Spotify after that probably inevitable shellacking. So with that, everyone have a fun and safe weekend. Enjoy the Mizzou game on Saturday as best as you can. I'm going to keep saying this, so hopefully I can kind of reverse psychology them into a win. We'll see. But everyone enjoy. Have a fun and safe weekend. We will see you all on Monday.